studio. All right.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Victor Nkindi.
Dumelang, everybody in Botswana. How are you?
Good evening. We are fine. It's raining cats and dogs outside. So I might have a little bit of a challenge hearing you, but I'm still very excited. Moketsi, thank you for helping us to host the Global Entrepreneurship Week for the Botswana chapter for the Global Entrepreneurship Network. I think that
Thank you very much,
considering we don't have much time, so Victor, why don't we just shoot straight and introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Keletso, and thank you, Moketsi. Always grateful to have someone like you with such energy to run a whole week of live sessions with entrepreneurs and key stakeholders all over Africa. So, Keletso, my name is Victor Nkindi, and I'm based in Kigali, Rwanda, where I run a company called Huza. We are a media house, media and tech house, and we are into the broadcast business. We mainly broadcast over mobile phone all over Africa. We work in actually 10 countries in Africa, the latest being DR Congo and Senegal. We broadcast local content in local language for people to subscribe and to listen over the mobile phone. So where we work in East Africa, we broadcast in Kiswahili. When we work in Rwanda, we broadcast in Kinyarwanda. In Senegal, we broadcast in Wolof. In DR Congo, we broadcast in Lingala. But as a media house, of course, we are also running all sorts of media services, working with big corporation for their communication and PR. So basically, this is me as well. I'm also an entrepreneur, working with the Tony Elumelu Foundation and supporting youth inclusion through entrepreneurship in Rwanda, but also all over Africa. Now, this is me, and I can see Malebo is joining us. So, hello, how are you, Malebo?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? Hi, Keleto.
Good evening, Maleboho. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We're just running through our introduction. So please go ahead and introduce yourself. I'd like to apologize beforehand. I don't know if it's raining where you are, Maleboho, but here it is raining so much. I can barely hear. It's raining so much. I can barely hear you, but I can get a little bit. So Maleboho, without wasting time, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Keleto. My name is Maleboho Marumahaye. I run a consultancy called Bell Larissa Consultants. We mainly do training. We focus mostly on assisting individuals and organizations to perform at their highest ability. The programs that we do currently are personal branding for the workplace. We train startups, we train organizations and individuals. We also do professional image, business etiquette, all those programs that sometimes we take for granted, but they really make a difference, especially during this era where there's so much competition, where we don't only look at your qualifications, but we are looking also for that X factor. So that is what we do at Bell Larissa.
Beautiful.
Keletso, you're on mute.
My mic was on mute. That is wonderful, Maleboho. Thank you very much. To those who are viewing, who are just catching in, the theme of tonight's chat is about entrepreneurship, startups, and media tools. So without cutting short, I think I'm just going to start straight into it by asking, at what point should a startup engage media for its exposure? Victor, what do you think is the perfect timing for that?
Well, it's always the perfect timing. It's just a matter to adapt to a specific landscape I should give you an example on here in Rwanda, where as a visiting lecturer at the National University, I've been asked to emphasize on the idea that a startup in the media sector can be profitable, and therefore convince our students that at some point when they finish their curriculum, they won't only have the choice to be an employee at the national broadcaster or be a PR in an NGO, but they also have the choice to be their own boss, to have their own startup in the media sector and make the difference through innovation. So innovation is key. Way before fundings, way before acquiring the right audience, someone should focus on the innovation and how he is going to make, or her is going to make the difference in this sector. As a colleague said here, is very competitive. So there's a real need of adapting to the audience and what we call here the last mile community.
Like I said, you might have to excuse me. It's a bit difficult. I did get a little bit of that, Malebogo, but please do join in your experience as well. What is a good time for a startup to engage media exposure? Or maybe if I pose the question differently, what are the dangers of involving media too early or maybe even too late? I don't know if you got that, Malebogo, or even Victor. What are the dangers of involving media tools too early in a startup?
Malebogo, are you with us? Okay, maybe she has a bird on her side. It's as you said, it's heavily raining in Gaborone. So as for startups and all in any other corporate anyway, even government institutions, engaging media tools is supposed to be a common sense. I mean, without media, you shouldn't be able to sustain and to inform and to make sure that your message and your activities are known by the public and by the audience you are targeting. So engaging media tools is vital for startups, but also for any other corporate or government organization. And the thing is, it has to be a specific skills. You know, this is not given to anybody to be able to communicate the right way through the right medium to the right audience. So most of the time they can be advised and outsource these capacities, these skills, in order to have the most effective communication. You know, we're here specifically on startups. Startups will be at some point limited to the social media, but social media are only repeaters. But these repeaters should relay a message coming from the mainframe. So this is something that requires some specific skills, and it's never too late. It's never the wrong time to do so. It's just that the management in a startup should be able to know when exactly and which medium and which message to which audience.
You know what I was thinking? I was running it through my mind that, you know, sometimes as a startup, maybe especially in Botswana, maybe you'll be running your business from a garage, and then maybe you engage media tools too early, and then people in China hear about you and be like, okay, let's engage Keleto. I hear she's doing 1, 2, and 3. But then maybe it's too early because I'm not able to produce or provide the services at the quantity and the level that the demand requires. So maybe that could kill the actual startup or kill up your reputation because you've built a hype that you cannot meet. So when I pose the question of too early or maybe even too late when you know now you're irrelevant and your startup isn't getting the attention that it could get if maybe you had just used your media tools on a little bit earlier. So I think timing it might actually be very, very important here. Or am I wrong, Victor?
No, you're totally right. I mean, the timing it goes with the audience. If you are working from your garage and you start to communicate, and let's say you're working in B2C, and people will need to reach out to you to purchase or to see what you are selling. But therefore, the communication should not be on getting people to your garage. The communication should be getting people to your webpage, getting people to one of your point of sales somewhere in town, in a shopping mall somewhere, but not in your in your garage. So it's the audience that you are targeting that should be taken care of carefully. You are not communicating for the B2C in order to have them reaching out to your garage. In the contrary, you can create your e-commerce interface and make a focus on attracting traffic on this e-commerce platform rather than on having them in your garage. So this is in case you are dealing with B2C and looking to sell to customers. But your startup might also be in need of a communication to other key stakeholders, such as the regulators, such as the banks, or maybe if you are looking to raise funds. This is a different communication to a different audience, and it will be taken care of when you scale up your strategy. Once you are done with the consumers, then yes, you can jump in with the fundraisers, bankers, or maybe you need some support in terms of compliance. So yes, you have to reach out to regulators and standard boards and so on. So once again, a different communication for a different audience, but it's never too late.
Why is it important as an entrepreneur to use media tools to tell your own story? Why do you think that we as Africans should take that more seriously?
Very good question. The narrative, it's you have to own your own narrative and not wait for a third party or to talk about your story, and you know better your story than anybody else. So using those media tools such as the social media, the vlogs, the blogs, will be for you a way to give that message, this narrative about you and your story, your company, how you got there, but also to engage with your audience, and actually to have their ownership in what's going to be your future, and not only consider your startup as your own baby because you have been luckily successful, but how are you going to sustain that story? How are you going to sustain that narrative with your audience? Customers, of course, neighbors, family, the countrymen, countrywomen. These are a great audience to engage with. They won't necessarily be customers, but they will be also repeaters for that narrative. They will have the ownership of your narrative, and they will help you to sustain it all over the years. And that is why it's very, very important for a startup to be able to build the narrative, but also to share it the right way.
Victor, you are in Rwanda. Can you hear me, Victor?
Loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. The rain is getting heavier and heavier. But anyway, you are in Rwanda. And Rwanda is doing very well in a number of areas right now. What success stories do we have, and on what lessons can we learn from Rwanda in regards to the rest of the African continent on startups that are using media tools to launch themselves and to expand themselves, maybe just by using a phone? What lessons are we learning now about the importance of telling your own story from your own angle as a startup using media tools that are available to you?
I think here we can talk about inclusivity. And it's a combination of leadership. It's a combination of the various frameworks, IT frameworks, legal frameworks, investment frameworks that will lead actually to an environment where a startup can effectively implement its own strategy without relying on third-party developers, fundings for venture capitalists, where we have all these frameworks are effective because of the will of the leadership. It's therefore very easy for Rwandan startup to pick up, and it's up now to its management to be more innovative and more conscious of the priorities, and actually not only for startups from Rwanda, because when you have such environments, actually it's no longer for Rwandan startups. Even startup from Botswana, startup from Congo, from Cameroon, from Senegal can actually come and implement what they haven't been able to implement, unfortunately, because in some other countries, the frameworks might be there, but are not effective. The leadership has the will, but the top-down implementation is still an issue. So where we succeed in Rwanda is to have effective frameworks that support entrepreneurship, not in both rural and urban areas, of course. But this is not enough. It is not enough because the management, those skills in finance, those skills in IT, those skills in human resource, we still have a gap in catching up with those skills. So we are not there yet. Training is still something that we are looking into. So yes, very soon we will see more and more institutions, universities from Africa, from America, settling in Rwanda, because we have these needs of training qualified workforce who can now take over also finance management and so on.
Thank you so much for coming back to us. I don't know if there's anything that you'd like to. I know you'd probably be listening backstage. Is there anything that you would like to add there?
Well, look, I'm keen on Victor maybe talking about how they've created a media as a magnet that attracts so many startups into Rwanda. Maybe specifically he could speak about the work that they're doing at Huza, at his company. Because, when we visited Rwanda for the first time, it was such an amazing experience for me because he was the one, sort of leading our media campaign for us and the team that went with me to Botswana, from Botswana to Rwanda. And one thing I can tell you is through him, we were able to get this international coverage that just came out of nowhere. It was like almost as if we're in New York or we're like in Tokyo or in Hong Kong. But this was Rwanda. I couldn't believe that this was happening right in Africa. So perhaps he could tell you a little bit or tell us a little bit about the company that they've created and maybe speak about their solution at Huza that they've created, which leverages just smartphones. And sorry if I'm taking you guys off course, but I think viewers out there are very excited to know about that particular element, and then we could interlink back into the conversation. That's where I want to pick out some of the questions.
Thank you, Moketsi. And yes, you remind me of the consortium of Botswana entrepreneurs who visited Rwanda a couple of years ago. And it was actually a great opportunity for us to introduce you to and all the key stakeholders who are supporting these different frameworks, IT frameworks, legal frameworks, investment frameworks in Rwanda, by taking you to business tour. You remember the Rwanda Development Board who gave us a presentation on the investment landscape in Rwanda, the private sector federation we visited, the different factories in the special economic zone, and other, like actually a regional organization such as Smart Africa that we have also visited with the consortium of Botswana business women and businessmen. So it was an opportunity for us to introduce the inclusivity of this environment, because we are putting frameworks and to have an effective environment in Rwanda, for Rwanda startups, for Rwanda government actually, and for Rwanda institutions, but we are opening the borders. This is not something we are doing only for us, and this is also was the spirit when we hosted the Botswana delegation in Rwanda. We wanted to have the inclusivity being visible through the business tour and the media tour that we did, by introducing you to local and regional and international business infrastructure, and same as for the media, introducing you to local media but also international media, in order to have this worldwide visibility. And actually, this is when I introduced earlier Huza, this is what we've been doing for over 7 years. And we do it in Rwanda, we do it also in other 10 African countries, by leverage on ICT to propose the best communication tool for the last mile community. Basically, the main medium that we are using today is mobile phone, because I'm talking about feature phone, because we know that mobile phone has the largest penetration rate in Africa compared to FM, for example. But we still have few smartphone penetration. So we focus on feature phone, where we prove that access to information was still an issue when it comes to mass communication and accessing to people deep in the countryside, in the hill. We need to be informed. We need to be educated. It's not only about news and infotainment and sport and so on. It's also about education. It's about financial inclusion. It's about financial literacy. It's about health awareness. We have, for example, right now, a crisis from the COVID effects, and we have a very high rate of teen pregnancy in rural areas. This is because there haven't been enough communication on first how to face the new normal, as in being locked down, a new way of interacting. Not only are wearing a mask and have to sanitize and so on, but also how to get away from trouble, like having this surge in teen pregnancy, as we have seen this last month. So it's a great issue that, with our mobile platforms and working with the telecoms and being able to broadcast small voice messages on a daily basis to people who still have a very high illiteracy issue, provide a channel that we can actually monitor. You know, it's a data-driven solution. So these channels are so far the most effective in terms of mass awareness campaign for health. We've been doing this previously also for like Ebola and so on. So we know that we have the most effective tools compared to the mainstream media in Africa, where it's very difficult to have metrics on mainstream media. But on a phone solution, mobile phone solution, it's a real-time metrics that we can pull out and measure the impact and then do some business intelligence analysis on it. So this is a whole media IT interaction that we have been putting together. Actually, this is the reason why our company is called Huza. Huza is from Kinyarwanda words Guhuza, put things together. Here we are putting content together on mobile phone, and we broadcast through the network because we know it's the most effective way to reach out to the communities. So the combination of media and ICT provides somehow one of the solutions that can support awareness on health issues, for example. This is the case of COVID-19 pandemics, but also on other issues such as civic education, you know, during elections, such as social inclusion, financial literacy for farmers, and access to loans. You have access to loan, but you need to be educated around how to manage those loans. You know, people never have access to loans before. Now it's more and more democratized, but you still need to educate people around that. So this is why through mobile phone we tend to find as much as we can solutions through innovation, and so far we've been successful on our strategy. And but yes, it's still difficult for us to rely on partners or on financial supports. So we do it organically, and as you introduced earlier, also we've been lucky to be selected in the Tony Elumelu Foundation 5 years ago as one of the 20 Rwandan startup, and we developed actually our business plan that time, and our business plan was validated by Accenture. And 5 years down the road, we are now in 10 African countries, and hopefully very soon in Botswana. So this is where actually a philosophy of Afri-capitalism, like this is the one Tony Elumelu is promoting, can help small structure like ours to actually go forward and implement, not because we had some fundings, but also because we had some support for some visibility and some credibility. Yeah.
What's going on here? Hello? Oh, gosh.
I can hear you.
Oh, gosh. Hello. What's going on? Oh, great. Victor? Oh, great.
Yeah, I think Keleto is frozen. What you can do is log out and log in again. Anyway, Victor, look, maybe while she's still coming out of the freeze, we can just have a conversation. Here's what I've
Can you hear me?
Victor.
I can hear you, Keleso, and I can hear you, Moketsi.
Yeah, so here's what I've picked, Victor. What we need to do is to try to be practical about what we can do with media tools like those that HUSA has developed. How do we bring such solutions to other markets? Because, I mean, you're speaking about solving practical problems that may otherwise exist in other markets, like even Botswana. I mean, we know people are trying to solve problems. It could be health tech or so on. But a lot of these startups don't read because they don't know like what they're developing already exists in other markets. So if I was to be deliberate and intentional and ask you, like, look, if I was to export a startup like yours to Botswana, what are the steps in which media could immediately start doing to make sure that the message reaches those that could adopt such a startup from another market? Vice versa for Botswana startups that might want to export their solution.
But you know, okay, it's all about what how the landscape is behaving over there in Botswana with this lockdown, with this because Botswana is a huge country with very few people, so they scatter all over the 500,000 square kilometers. So definitely there's a need of communication, effective communication for education, for example, remote schools in a rural area, health, prevention on HIV, of course, the COVID-19 awareness campaign. So we are never out of solution for a country like Botswana. But the key word here, once again, is inclusion. Inclusion, because we need to work with the existing frameworks in telecommunication, in education, in health, in governance, actually. Because I've been talking about this since the last 20 minutes. The solution is called mobile governance, because it comes after e-governance. You know, we created the e-governance like a decade ago, having like in Rwanda everything available online on a web platform, but forgetting that actually the majority don't access the internet and through a web platform. They access what they can through a feature phone. So we, for a use case like Botswana, actually we've been having contacts with authorities and with the private sector in Botswana for the last couple of years. We still have the opportunity to implement such solutions, but in partnership with the local private sector, the local startup environments, and the regulators and the standard bodies. So we are looking forward to have something of this in the first quarter of 2021, if the lockdown and the pandemic is giving us this opportunity. We will be able to have the business tour, you know, that we've been planning for some months now in Botswana. It wasn't possible in 2020. But hopefully, with your support and the support of all the bodies there in Gaborone, 2021 will be the year where we can have this business tour and have effective discussions to implement such solutions. So yeah, I'm looking into it, and hopefully, yeah, 2021 is the year. So
I see that Keleto is back. Keleto, just to confirm that I see Malebogo is back here, I'd asked Malebogo to run a quick presentation. Maybe we could allow her to proceed. Then we circle back to the three of you guys. How's that, Keleto?
That's perfect. Malebogo, thanks. Welcome back.
Thank you, Keleto.
We'd love to hear more about what you do. Please do do let us know.
Okay, first let me apologize for disappearing for the better part of you guys' presentations. Victor, I'm sure I'll go through this your presentation after this, because Mogezi promised me that he's recording it.
Sure.
So not all is lost. Okay, what Mogezi and I agreed to do for today is just to give startups basics of social media etiquette. My understanding or my observation has been that a lot of startups belong to young people who are very active on social media and sometimes get a little bit carried away when it comes to the way they present themselves. So I truly believe it's important for startups to understand how to use social media, because social media has the power to break or make. So we have this amazing tool at our disposal, but the question is, are we using it to our advantage? Is it really benefiting us, or we are just using it to connect with people that we haven't seen in 20 years? You know, the first and most important thing that I think we need to well, as startups, you need to look at is why you are on social media. Why are you on social media? Are you there for fun? Are you there for connectivity, which is amazing? Or are you there for the bottom line, which is profit making for your business? So it's very important, like I said, to understand why exactly you are on social media. So the first thing is obviously knowing your target market. What are you selling and who are you selling it to? That way you understand how to package your product, what to post, when to post it, and how to package the message that you're sending out to your audience or to your target market. It's also important for startups to understand that because we are most startups, as Mara keeps saying, most startups are small and they don't really have a lot of funds to spend on your traditional media, to put their ads on the radio, on newspapers, and television. We can use social media to actually push our sales, I have for the past two years been using social media to market my services. And I think it goes beyond just using it to market your services, but also to kind of know how to measure the impact that social media is making on your services. Don't just, pay for ads just because you can do so. Sit down and ask yourself, is this really what I want? You must at first have a plan, social media plan, to say, I want to put in 20,000 in 2021. How do I want that 20,000 pula or whatever dollars to work for me? So you need to have a solid plan. Another thing that I want to say is, because startups don't really have that much of a budget, it's important to know that as a startup and as the owner of that startup, sometimes there is a thin line. People don't really know the difference between you and your entity. So it becomes very important for you to kind of separate your personal page, if I may put it that way, your personal profile from your company profile or your page. That way you are able to say, okay, as an individual, I belong to this particular religion or political party, but I know that I cannot take all those things and put them on my business page, because you want everyone to buy your products or your services. So you don't want to kind of say you're only focusing on this particular religion or this particular political party. So it's very important for you to separate the two. And the other thing, like I said at the beginning, is getting carried away, because startups, they are young and vibrant, and they want to do all the fun stuff. And sometimes they want what we call instant gratification. You want people to know a whole lot of things that may not necessarily benefit you as a company. So it's important to know that you are your own working billboard, because you can't afford to go and put up a billboard out there in Gaborone. So what we see on your social media page is a direct, it reflects on you. I know that a lot of people say, we are just posting for fun on social media. We don't really we don't take ourselves seriously. But the funny thing, or the truth about it is, because I haven't met Victor, I haven't met Gillian, so what they post on social media is what I'll take them for it. Otherwise, where else would I say, no, I've seen Kelezo do 1, 2, 3, unless I go on their social media and see exactly what they post, because I believe what you post is what, or is who you really are. So your personal brand here plays a very crucial point, or a very, it's very important when it comes to who wants to work with you. As Malebogo working for Bellarisa Consultants, I have to understand that the moment people see Bellarisa Consultants and the founder, they will go to my page. And if those two are not in alignment, then it means people won't buy what I am selling. So I think it's very important for startups to understand that social media, like I said, has the power to build or break you. It's all in your hands. And some tips that I may just want to throw in before I close is, sometimes people think just because you have this amazing brand, you just need to focus on your brand, Kelezo. You cannot do that if you want to grow as a startup. You need to also be sharing stuff about Bellarisa, about Victor Nkindi stuff, to show that you're not greedy, you're not selfish, you're not just looking at your own interest. That way, other people will find it will be effortless for me to share stuff from your page, because I see you doing the same. So let's get out of this thing of thinking that my brand is so important that I only want people to share and engage, but I don't want to be part of the engagement. Engagement is very, very important. When you send something out, for us as your clients or your potential clients, we need to see you engaging with us. You can't just post something and then disappear and let us comment and do all sorts of things. You need to keep engaging us so that we know that we are dealing with a human being. We're not dealing with a robot. There has to be that personal touch to say, okay, it's Malebogo from it's Bellarisa. When I ask about their event, or when I ask about their fees for a particular program, they engage with me. When they post something to do with social media etiquette and I ask a question with regards to that, they engage with me. They don't feel like celebrities, where you post something and people comment and you just look at the comments like that. So I really believe this rule that you need to help more than you sell is very important. Don't just bombard people with what you are selling. Every now and then, give us some free advice. Don't just be sending out adverts of your events, of your trainings. Give us a little bit of this and that, teaser, so that we can know that, we are trying to build a community. So in building a community, that you need to also give. You can't just be taking. I always say, don't just be a go-getter. You need to also be a go-giver. People should always remember that you don't just take, you also give. So I'll stop there before I get carried away.
That's very informative. Thank you, Malebogo. So, with regards to social media in Africa, what I've noticed is that social media tends to be a very youth-centric thing. How important is it as a brand to also reach out to older audiences, maybe even outside of just the social media part?
It's very important for you to understand that who the demographics of your target market. So in my case, I have programs that where my target market is, children. So I would want to say combine social media and maybe a bit of radio in the morning when they're going to school. That way the kids can hear about my programs in the morning when they're being driven to school, and their parents can see that on social media. So it's very important for us to kind of know how to combine traditional media and social media for you to get the full benefits of it.
Yes, I think we need to note as well, Victor, maybe you can fill me in on this, that as much as social media is important, I think in the case of social media in Africa, it is a middle class luxury maybe. And we need to also remember that there are those who, like Victor says, are not literate, and those who maybe are not so much able to get onto social media, because remember, in Botswana, internet is not free. But I do appreciate what you're saying, Malebo. I don't know, Victor, how do we, what should we young entrepreneurs do in order to not only be stuck with one demographic in social media? How can one expand themselves?
Well, I've always said that it's about the demographics, and it happens that in Africa, we tend to have the same demographic of around 65 to 70% of our population under the age of 30. Most of the time, there are more and more access to international exposure through the internet, through the television, and therefore they have different aspirations, and it's changing over years. The same things you will see in New York or in London, you will have the same aspiration in Cape Town, Cameroon, or Kigali. But the thing is, the way to access it on a daily basis, like jumping into social media and have this instant acquisition of the information or the service or the movie or whatever you want. It's still limited to this, let's say, 15 to 20% of smartphones users out of the whole base of mobile phone users in a given country. It's also the same matrix from a country to another, around 80 to 90% mobile phone penetration rate. And in the case of Botswana, actually, it's 110%. You guys have more phone lines than inhabitants. So it's interesting. But in the use case I want to present here is that it's like we are using a social media for people who can't access the internet, for people who can't read, but for people who need effective information. We are less into infotainment. We are more into real-time information and health, education, and so on, because this is what we think is useful for the majority of our African demographics. And the models that we are engaging with can change. We know we can do models on subscription, and they will have to pay through the airtime or through the mobile wallet and so on. But most of our products, we tend to deliver them on a freemium, so they can access health, educative content for free, and up to us to get a partner who will be supporting financially the broadcast. So, and it's more effective than using WhatsApp or using Facebook or using Twitter. We've been doing it for 7 years now, and we see every day in all the countries we are working with the difference that it makes. And actually, it has even more traction. You know, we have more subscribers through such a solution than you can get over Facebook or even over mainstream media. This is impressive, frankly speaking. So for us, providing social media is complementary. Let's say the classic social media is complementary to what we are providing. We can work with them as repeaters and for another audience, you know, for a more urban and more trendy audience. But for the majority with low revenue in the rural areas, we definitely found the best way to reach out to them.
So I think that's actually very great, because what we're talking about here is two different ways of reaching different demographics in Africa. So if I go back to you, Malebogo, you said something very crucial, that, you know what, social media is the way for an entrepreneur to easily access a lot of people at a low cost. Are we looking at, I asked Victor a question earlier, and I asked him, you know, can it be too early? Is it possible for an entrepreneur to engage in using media tools too early for their own good? I just thought maybe I could hear what you had to say on that.
Is it too early for an entrepreneur to, so I didn't quite get that?
I'm saying, my question is it possible to engage media tools too early before you are actually ready to launch? Or can someone start using it at any time and start using it at any time and just talking about what their services are before they actually are maybe even able to provide the adequate service? Can that be a danger?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it can be a danger. Like I said, you need to have a plan. So if you don't have a social media plan, it means you're going to be doing things haphazardly. So you don't want that. As an entrepreneur, you need to, position yourself as professional, as knowing your stuff. So if you get on social media too quick with an unfinished product that is not packaged properly, remember there's this thing that we call first impressions. I might just get into your social media page, whatever, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and get that first impression that says to me that you're not ready or that your product is not up to par. So chances of me coming back to you are very slim. So it's important for you to kind of work out what it is that you really want to send out to the people, so that whatever that you send is exactly what you have, and we will buy that.
So Victor and Malebogo, thank you so much. We don't have much time, but any last words, Victor and Malebogo? What is the future for a startup? What is the best way to go about using media tools for a startup? Let's start with the ladies first, Malebogo, and then let's hear what Victor has to say.
I honestly think this is the best time for startups, to use media tools, because there are so many out there. I mean, when it comes to your accounting, when it comes to, there's just so much to do out there. So I just say, go out and, also get in contact with people like Victor. We are doing amazing things in Africa, and find out what it is that you can do together. Don't just, isolate yourself. Media is out there to point you to the right direction, to go to people that have the same vision as you. So it's very important, I'd say, to use media to benefit you, not just for fun.
Thanks for that, Victor. What are you saying? What are we saying here about media tools and startups? What is your last message?
Definitely, social media are really effective tools for startup to use, and when it comes to communicate, but also innovation. I mean, using them the way they are won't make a difference. But innovate and have a way to have to include your audience and to interact with the audience through those social media. Therefore, you will make the difference. And when it comes to innovation as well, yes, I invite any startup who needs to know more about the mobile channels, that this is something also they should consider for actually the next 5 years, and because it's effective, it has metrics, and it actually is even cheaper than the mainstream media. So definitely, social media and innovation are the key words here.
Victor, actually, quite quickly, you are responsible, I believe, for CNBC in Rwanda, if I am correct. Why is it important for CNBC to be in Rwanda, for Rwandans to have a voice and a say in CNBC within Rwanda?
No, I'm not responsible for CNBC. I hope I hope to be responsible for some days. But the the fact that you have institutions like CNBC in media, international media with a regional headquarters in Rwanda, is because it's part of this investment and attractiveness that Rwanda is offering through those frameworks we talked about in the beginning of this session. We provide enough Rwanda, and through the Rwanda Development Board, they're providing really great incentives to allow such big companies to have the office or the headquarters here in Rwanda. And it's not only CNBC, I mean, I'm talking about all the other corporate banks, insurance, all these investors that looking in Rwanda as a future headquarters. Is the same spirit. I mean, and I'm sure we don't only have CNBC as international media. We have other broadcasters that are coming from the region that have established offices in Rwanda. So it's in line with the investment strategy that Rwanda has.
I think I need to relocate myself to Rwanda. Maleboga, let's go to Rwanda. Thank you so much. I think this is all we have time for. I think that this is all we have.
You're welcome in Rwanda. We'll be happy to support your migration.
I'll be there as soon as I can. COVID-19 2021 will be no more, so I will be in Rwanda hopefully. But thank you once again for your time, Maleboga and Victor, for both your inputs, and viewers. Thank you for joining us. I think that's just to recap. Victor has Victor's platform provides information in forms of podcasts for those who maybe cannot read or cannot access media, maybe in rural areas, and they are very informative, which is breaking barriers and also assisting with information that may be not easily reached, especially for the remote Africans. And Maleboga, on the other hand, is also advising us on, or advising startups using social media that, you know what, look, social media is a platform that not only cheap and accessible to everyone, but it's also a platform that you as a startup can use to boost yourself. So, but don't use it just for a social media sake, but also use it for startup social media sake. So I think that both of you have covered very important grounds, and we've definitely learned the importance of entrepreneurship using media tools. So I'd like to thank you both once again, Maleboga in Gaborone, or actually in Botswana, I'm not sure if you're in Gaborone, and Victor in Rwanda. I'd like to wish everybody a good evening, and thank you once again from me, Keletso in Gaborone. Good night.
Night.
Good evening.